Evening all, welcome to Kicking Dust, and what we have for you today is a relative smorgasbord of plasmas, flaylocks, and cloaking goodness. So that's kind of our running order today, and we're going to talk about a few different things. Number one, reform, they cried, reform is coming. And I'll leave it at that. We'll come back to that in a minute. We're going to talk about CPM elections. They're currently going on. Oh, God. Ugh. No, I managed to wake myself up in time then, so thank God. And we're going to talk about, I think, dust in general. Where is it? What's going on? And so on. So that's our triumvirate of discussion points for today. So I've already forgotten all three of them, so I'm just going to wing it anyway. Number one, let's talk about reform. Now, reform is an interesting discussion point because those of you that are following Dust and have followed Dust for some time will probably have seen that there are less people playing the game. Okay, now hang on. Ooh. I know you're about to point me to eveoffline.net, etc. Well, okay, fair enough. That does show a decline. But I'm gonna propose to you something that I think only CCP know, and I would like to know myself, but I bet they'll never release, is how many people are actually playing games. I have a startling factoid delivered to me that on average, something like, this is just an opinion, there is something like the highest tier of the matchmaking, there's something like 120 or 30 players that make up that group. Okay, so again, don't ask me to quantify that. It's just hearsay and rumor. But I think if I was to put my kind of finger on the pulse of it, I'd say that's true. So there's definitely quite a lot of people logging in. 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 at any one point is good numbers. But do you know what they're doing with it? It's intergalactic Skype, for God's sake. They're apparently using voice comms as a way to talk. And they're running the odd game here and there, but there's huge periods of not playing the game. Now, this is just, again, polling the court, polling people we know, and kind of asking them, well, what do you do? How many games you play a night kind of thing? What's your downtime? How long are you in the quarters? And an astonishing amount of people just sit in the quarters, just literally sit there with their PS3 on and their TV off on TV. So it's like, that's not good. So that's kind of an issue to me. So in a long, we'll talk about that maybe in another video, but my biggest point to make there is reform. Reform happens when shit goes down or up or left or right, or something isn't working or something is working. It's, to be honest, it's change of some kind. So there is going to come change to my channel. So already we're now looking at the next generation of this. And I think this comes from the fact that we're going to end all of our Dust series and just culminate into one. So moving forward very soon, in fact, we're going to have a single series of Dust, and it will be our last series of Dust. And this will be something that we just run until the servers finish and Legion maybe comes out. And if Legion doesn't come out, then it will just finish. So that's kind of where we're going with this. That's our commitment so far. And we're going to see reform in a different way because we're going to stop doing these kind of blabby ones as we're doing here. We'll do a few of them. Well, we will. They'll be the staple of the channel, I guess. But we're going to do a few more kind of interesting things. We're going to do a few more montages, a bit more humor, and a bit more fun. We're also going to talk to a few more people. The people seem to be quite liking the CPM election videos that I did. That's obviously great. They like the talks I did as well. But to be honest with you, they're hard to do. Doing those kind of conversations I do kind of enjoy them, but there is quite a lot of work in doing them. And to be honest, we never really wanted to become political with this channel. That's pretty evident. I know we do get involved. We get dragged into quite a lot of stuff, but I think as we're kind of looking at it, it's not really our raison d'etre. We just want to play games and have fun. So when I say reform, there's going to be a fair bit of kind of just, getting away from the serious business and just enjoying the game. Which brings me on to the next topic, the CPM. Elections are currently live. It seems like that was my brain shifting down a gear. There you go. If you ever want to know what people are thinking, if they sigh like I just did then, it means their brain's shifting down a gear because they're kind of bringing themselves down mentally to deal with the topic. And I've got to admit, that is how I feel about it. It's a great, worthy kind of thing, but I think the reality is they're expecting a voter turnout of 10%. 10%. Yeah, 10%, dudes. That's it. That's what they're expecting. Which is terrible. I really do think that's terrible. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of disappointed still. I went into this. Let me tell you what I did. I started this whole process with people thinking that I'm going to troll the shit out of it, that I'm going to be negative to it, and that I'm just going to be a complete dick about this. And it did cross my mind. But I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of wanted it to be a bit of a fair election. I wanted everybody to kind of have a fair shot at this. So I did an honest, simple, straightforward strengths and weaknesses study of what I thought of each of the candidates. And every single candidate had incredible strengths, and every single candidate had weaknesses. That's the way it works. So you show the good and you show the bad. What I found was that, to be honest, it really doesn't matter who wins. It actually really doesn't, I'm afraid to say, matter at all who wins, because we're going to get a good group of people anyway, regardless of whoever wins, because you'll have the same kind of skill sets as it works out. What I think I made very clear was that I was not particularly happy with the quote smear campaigns that were going on, though, because there are some very strong candidates indeed. And I think, to be honest, there's been a little bit of collective fear of these candidates, so much so that they've pretty much rounded and attacked them continually. And they've also got lackeys and kind of, sycophants to kind of, ask the difficult questions so they can kind of set them up. So this is kind of going on. And again, I'm in kind of two minds to call it out or not. So at the moment, I'm kind of keeping names out of this. But I think from my point of view, if it's not going to be a fair election, that benefits me because I get views when drama happens. Okay, so let me just explain the commercial model behind YouTube. If I F and blind and I point out, oh, look at this. Just before we go into the serious business, look at that. Feeling tired. Oh, this game. So anyway, the commercial model of YouTube is simple. The more views you get, the more ad space you sell, the more money you make. Now, that's a very cold, hard, honest appraisal of how it works, and I'm not going to mince my words. The advertisements happen, and that's YouTube. This is why people are motivated to give you all this free content. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. So, to be honest, this is something that I think people really don't understand. To be honest, I would have been kind of better placed to make an incredible drama and troll out of the whole thing. But I decided not to because I did want it to be a fair elections. But others are deciding they don't want a fair elections. So I'm going to monitor it for a couple more days. But if I find that it continues, and this is aimed at, unfortunately, one candidate entirely. If there's a gang of about 7 people who are deliberately trying to nobble one candidate because they are a very strong candidate, I think, to be quite honest with you, then I'm going to enjoy turning this more into a circus and turning it more into a drama theatre because they're kind of doing it. They're kind of prompting me to do it, and I think already. And the best thing about this, and I should be quite clear with this, I'm being fed logs of what these people are saying in Skype. They are screwing and fucking each other over already because they are thinking and ready for me to do this. So they're actually preparing for this whole thing so they can turn around and say, oh yeah, but I was letting Pyrex in on it all the time. And it's beautiful, it really is, to see how this kind of group of people bandwagoning are actually kind of screwing themselves over, and then they're also screwing the other members of this bandwagon over completely by sharing logs and sharing chat messages and not being terribly careful what they say on TeamSpeak, for example. So to be honest, they're kind of stupid, and I'm really loving this fact. Now, part of me is curious because, to be honest, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, the reason I'm reforming the channel is because Dust is dying. Already we're looking at other things to do, other games to play. We're looking at even starting other channels entirely. So to be honest, this is not really it's quite a timely discussion that this is happening, because the reality is that Dust has 6 months left maybe before the vast majority of the remaining casual players leave, and all that's left is What the French, Prima Gallicus, and maybe Mafia Clan, who said they left but apparently are back now. And then it'll just be those 3 groups fighting each other eternally in a kind of eternal circle jerk that nobody cares about, nobody knows about, and quite frankly everybody will just be like, Dust is still going, I thought that game was dead. Which is pretty much what's going to happen, because again, Legion is not greenlit, and it doesn't seem to be either very near. So that's my fear. So This is something that I think we're saving as maybe a kind of swan song. So we'll maybe over time release them, maybe in kind of a chronicle way, because that would be quite funny. Particularly if certain CPM members get in, we're going to lynch them with what they've said. So I'm really quite excited because this gives me a huge amount of material that obviously I guess I can enjoy and and savor continually. So there we go. So that's our kind of raison d'etre. We wanted it to be a fair and just election. I've even stayed out of a lot of the drama, but to be honest, if you know, if they're going to continue and perpetuate, then it's going to be fun hanging them with their own words. And there we go. So just a reminder, go and vote. Doesn't matter who you vote for, really, just go and vote. And I think, to be honest, if you want to maybe post in the comments and tell me why you're not voting, then I will also be interested in that. To be honest, I hear what you say. I think if there was none of the above option, then I do get that as well. Anyway, we'll continue this little chat in the next video. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.